Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Corner, and welcome to this horror movie review for day 16 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. So, today we're going to take a look at the third movie in a certain series. I watched and reviewed the first two movies. Those are up on my channel. I believe I did one in October of last year, and I think I did the other one, the second one, earlier this year in May in my 31 series. And that, of course, is the Conjuring series within the Conjuring universe. And so today we're going to go ahead and take a look at the third Conjuring movie, which is The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Ignore this sticker. I tried to rip it off and it was wrecking my slipcover case here. So I'm gonna have to keep it on, unfortunately. You gotta be careful where you buy these things from, I guess. But yeah, so The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. I didn't see this at theaters. This was a first time watch for me. So um, let's just go ahead and get into it. Obviously, I was a big fan of the first two Conjuring movies. So I was interested to see what they were going to do with this one. I lowered my expectations, kind of talking to other people and people that had seen it and talked about it and stuff. So, anyway, let's just go ahead and get into it, though. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, also known as The Conjuring 3, is a 2021 American supernatural horror film directed by Michael Michael Chavis. We'll go with that, with a screenplay by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick and the story by Johnson McGoldrick and James Wan. The film serves as a sequel to The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2 and is the eighth installment in the Conjuring universe. Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga reprise their roles as paranormal investigators, and authors Ed and Lorraine Warren and Peter Safran returned to produce the film, which is based on the trial of Arnie Cheyenne Johnson, a murder trial that took place in 1981 Connecticut. In addition to the devil, in addition to the Devil in Connecticut, a book about the trial written by Gerald Brittle. So basically, the film opens in 1981. A demonologist, Ed and Lorraine Warren, document the exorcism of 8-year-old David Glatzel, attended by his family, his sister Debbie, her boyfriend Arn Johnson, and Father Gordon in Brookfield, Connecticut. During the exorcism, Arn invites the demon to enter his body instead of David's. Ed witnesses the demon transport itself from David's body to Arn's while he suffers from a heart attack and is taken to the hospital in an unconscious state. The following month, Ed wakes up at the hospital and reveals to Lorraine that he witnessed the demon enter Arn's body. She sends the police to the Glatzel household, warning them that a tragedy will occur there. Arn and Debbie return to their apartment located above a kennel where Debbie works. After feeling unwell, Arn murders his landlord, Bruno Sauls, by stabbing him 22 times during his demonic possession. With the support of the Warrens, his case becomes the first American murder trial to claim demonic possession as a defense, resulting in the beginning of an investigation into David's original possession. So yeah, that's the setup and the premise for The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. As far as the cast goes, of course, we have Vera Farmiga as Lorraine Warren. We have Patrick Wilson as Ed Warren. We have, and I'm probably going to butcher his name, but Rari, or Rari O'Connor is Arn Cheyenne Johnson. Hopefully I'm close. Sarah Catherine Hook is Debbie Glatzel. Julian Hillard is David Glatzel. John Noble as Father Kastner. Eugene Bondurant is Isla the occultist. And Shannon Cook is Drew Thomas. So yeah, that's the setup, the premise, and the cast for the third Conjuring movie, The Devil Made Me Do It. Um, Overall, I have to say I still enjoyed this movie. I agree with most people that it is the lesser of the three Conjuring movies. I haven't seen the other movies in the universe yet, although I did just get the three Annabelle movies in a collection a few weeks ago, so I'll have to check those out in the future. But as far as the three Conjuring movies, I do think it is the weakest of the three, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. There's still a lot here to enjoy. So let's just go ahead and get into it, starting with my pros or the things I like most about this movie. So obviously, you got to start with Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, of course. They're both at the top of their games once again. In terms of giving these characters, Ed and Lorraine Warren, they're all just their relationship, their chemistry together. it's really the thing that really elevates all three of these Conjuring movies and takes it to another level that other even other horror movies that are well made and well produced don't have because of the characters. When you have main characters that are as strong as these two are, and their chemistry so strong together. I mean, you honestly believe that these two might be married in real life. Now, I know they're not, of course, but they just sometimes you just throw an actor, an actress, or an actors or actresses together, and you can't teach it, you can't predict it, but they just have chemistry that just jumps off the screen. And these two have that, like very few others, especially in modern times. Um, but yeah, they're the best thing about this movie. They're wonderful here. They feel like real people. I think that's the biggest thing you can say about them is both together collectively and individually. They feel like real people. They don't feel like they're taking a paycheck to act in a movie. They feel like they are these characters, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, they're definitely the best part of this movie. I think the rest of the cast is and the performances are really solid as well, though, especially by Rari O'Connor. O'Connor, Rari or Rari O'Connor. Somebody can comment down below and John Noble. Those two, besides Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, also jumped off the screen to me. Rory O'Connor, of course, is Aaron Cheyenne Johnson, who's our main victim, if you will. Well, second victim, I guess, but main victim in the movie. Second at the beginning of the movie, it's young David, played by Julian Hillard, who's also good in the movie, especially as a child actor. But obviously, the case is based on Rory O'Connor's character of Aaron Cheyenne Johnson. He does a good job, and then John Noble as Father Kastner. He really has a kind of a dual character he plays. Maybe not dual, but he's kind of that person that our main protagonists go to get information, and then there's kind of a turn that happens at some point in the movie where you're not quite sure he's quite the good guy you thought he was, and he plays it really well, really creepy. So yeah, I think the performances overall are really good. Also, I have to say that Rory O'Connor and Sarah Catherine Hook, their characters of Aaron Cheyenne Johnson and Debbie Glatzel, I thought they had good chemistry too for a young couple. You could tell they really cared about each other. Um, they had. I'm not going to say their chemistry was as good as Lorraine and Ed's, of course, but it's good for a younger couple. I thought that helped make the story a little bit more believable. So I wanted to bring that up as a caveat here. Other things I liked about this movie, I think the idea, the premise of the movie is really interesting, somewhat engaging throughout to see exactly how this is going to turn out. Now, obviously, the premise and the story is sort of already made by the fact this was based on a true story, the Devil Made Me Do It case from the early '80s. So they kind of had that to start with, but of course, the case itself isn't really. This movie kind of it takes that premise and then it kind of goes off and does some other things on its own here, which I think it had to because I just don't think there would have been that much to make a movie with just the case. Um, but I like I said, I think the case and the story is interesting enough to keep the viewer engaged, to see how this is all going to turn out. At least it was for me. Um, so that's definitely a pro. I felt like, and then I have to say, too, this is a very well shot movie with wonderful cinematography. They have some great outdoor landscaping shots, some good panning shots of the outdoors. Just very beautiful stuff. It's a nice movie to look at. It really is. Pretty good use of dark and light at different scenes in the movie. And then the beginning and the end of the movie are the other pros that I have. I really enjoyed the opening scene. Having an intense exorcism right off the bat made the movie easy to get into from jump. Um, where basically young David Glatzel, played by Julian Hillard, is possessed, and then he loses the possession to Aaron Cheyenne Johnson at the end of the first scene. But that opening sequence is really effective, and it lets everybody know, yeah, you're watching a Conjuring movie, and it's very effective, very intense right off the bat. So that was good. And then the final confrontation with Ed and Lorraine and our villain or antagonist in this movie was pretty suspenseful with high stakes, especially once again for those two main characters of Ed and Lorraine Warren, as Aaron Cheyenne Johnson too, because something's happening with him as he's possessed. Um, that kind of plays into the story that needs to happen related to suicide and murder. So that's as much as I'll say. But yeah, I thought the final confrontation, the final sort of the climax of the movie, if you will, was effective for what it was. I really did. So yeah, lots of good stuff here from a pros and things that I like standpoint. I also have to say I thought it was interesting that Patrick Wilson's character of Ed, he suffers from a heart attack at the beginning of this movie during that original exorcism because of the demonic possession. Um, the demon basically forces it on him, and he ends up having a heart attack. And that's kind of a theme that's played throughout the movie, where he's walking with a cane for a lot of the movie. I thought that was sort of an interesting sort of additional thing to give that character and to give Ed and Lorraine collectively together that we hadn't seen before. So obviously, it's a few years after the first two movies take place, so they're getting on in age a little bit, and not that they still don't look great in this movie, but it kind of makes sense that one of them would suffer from a physical ailment with what they do and everything, what their jobs are. So I thought that was a nice touch too of something extra added, and certainly Patrick Wilson played that up very well, where it was very believable. As far as cons go in this movie, I don't have a lot, but the ones I have are pretty decent sized cons or things that stand out. The biggest one you got to mention right away is James Wan not directing this movie, and you feel it. You feel it when you watch this movie because even though you have a lot of the other pieces here, especially Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson, you're missing James Wan's brilliance behind the camera and his brilliance in the director's chair. And not to take anything away from Michael Chavis or Chavis, however you pronounce it, because I don't think he did a terrible job directing. This is a case where he's got some directing talent. He's just not on the level of James Wan for these movies. I do think he did a better job with this movie than The Curse of La Llorona in this universe, which I haven't seen the whole movie all the way through because, quite frankly, I couldn't get through it. That's a different review, but he does a better job here. But as far as the Conjuring movies, you can tell that there's just so many missed opportunities, especially in terms of the horror, the effective jump scares that James Wan, that only really he can set up so well. What he brings to these movies is sorely lacking here, in my opinion. From his camera work to, like I said, setting up those scares, and just from a direction standpoint, really miss James Wan in this movie. I wish he would have directed it. I think it would have been a better movie. Um, so that's number one. And kind of going off that point, this movie is definitely the least scary of the Conjuring movies, which is why it's the of the three movies, it's the least effective from the Conjuring movies. This is much more of a mystery and sort of maybe you could say a suspenseful, investigative type movie with a couple of scares here and there that work okay, but not as effective, not as well as the first two Conjuring movies. It's just not as effective of a horror movie. That's the best way to say it. It doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's not a bad movie. There's still a lot here to like, but as a horror movie, as a Conjuring movie, it's just not as good. It's that simple from a horror standpoint. So, and then also, while the story I think is interesting and engaging, the execution of the storytelling to me is pretty mediocre in this movie. Again, going back to not having James Wan, there's some big missed opportunities, in my opinion, in the directions that they go with the story in this movie that just don't make the overall movie quite as effective for me. And then my final con, and it's a bit of a smaller one, but it's still there, is I don't feel like the villain in this movie, the antagonist, is quite as strong as the other Conjuring movies, especially. Um, yeah, it's just not. I just don't see this villain or the villains in this movie being quite as iconic going forward as like the nun is. What's her name? What's her toes? Oh shit, it's escaping me now. Valak. There we go. I knew I'd think of it. And the villains from the demons from the first movie, and even Annabelle for that matter. I don't feel like this occultist is quite as strong, and therefore the demons that she conjures up aren't quite as strong. So, again, that's not one of the bigger cons, but it is one that exists for me while watching this movie. So, that's all I have for my review or for my cons for this movie. Overall, I did enjoy this movie. It is worth checking out. I'm glad that I own it, not just because if I'm going to have the first two movies, I want to have the series. But it legitimately is a good movie that I could watch again and enjoy. And a lot of it, again, as I said earlier, and I'll continue to say, it's the characters. It's especially the two main characters and their performances. That's what that human element in these movies is really what make them good movies. At least good movies on a better level. This movie's just a little bit less in terms of the horror element of the movie. And again, I hate to keep repeating it, but that's where we're missing James Wan comes in. But as a movie goes, it's still good, and I would still recommend it. So I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10 as far as the rating goes. Definitely check it out. I would recommend watching it at least once and even buying it. I have this nice Blu-ray and digital code combo here with the slipcover. It does have some special features which I have yet to watch. I don't know if you can see those, but good movie. It is worthy of the Conjuring universe. It's just if I were ranking them, it'd just be my least favorite. Like I think it is for a lot of people. So that's my review for The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, for day 16 of my 31 Days of Halloween Horror series. Go ahead and comment down below what you guys think of The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell down below so you don't miss any of my upcoming reviews for this series. And please subscribe to my channel as well so you don't miss any of my great horror content that I have coming out the rest of this year and beyond. So thank you for watching this review. Hope everybody's October is going good, and stay scared. Bye.